Good morning, everybody. It's the morning recording. I hope everybody out there in the world is having a wonderful day. Hope you guys are spending your time with your families, preparing for although they are commercial holidays, for this time of year where a lot of people are reminded that they are loved and that they're surrounded by love at all times. A lot of people like to remember that this time of year, feel special, and then like to go on about the rest of their years as though, or the year as though it's different the other times of the year. We should be treating each other special all times of the year. We shouldn't need a holiday to care for each other. That's for sure. But it doesn't hurt to give ourselves a couple of times a year or a season throughout the year where we really remind ourselves. We should just extend that. We should always treat each other special. We shouldn't let things that make us different divide us. The most important thing is that we all live healthy lives, mentally, physically. We aren't harmed by others emotionally or physically, and we all get to enjoy a multitude of experiences while we're here, and get to remind ourselves through all the adversity that love is what really matters. So treat everybody out there you come into contact today with respect out there. Tripping over my words. But yeah, just we could all be hypocrites right now. I could tell you that I myself on a daily basis struggle with just being civil with everybody around me at all times and not being in a defensive mode where I put up walls and shut other people out of my life just because they make me uncomfortable for one reason or another. I am guilty of that. A lot of us are. We're still a work in progress as a society. Right now, it would appear if you were to watch TV as though people are ultra divided, but I know that people love their families and want to love the people around them, and at their core, people don't want to always be at war with each other. There's a reason There's a reason why they have to teach you how to want to kill or murder people, and they don't ever have to teach you how to love. Because love is most genuinely what you are at your core. The most accurate emotional value that you could describe yourself with is love. They have to put people in boot camps and break down their mental processes and replace them in order to get them to be okay with killing other people, but you don't have to put somebody in a boot camp to teach them how to love someone. They come out of the womb knowing that. Consciousness is love at its core. So just remind yourselves of that. All of these illusory divides that have us on one side or the other side of the fence looking at each other as though we want to kill the other person, those things are not worth it. It's just not worth it. Think of the positive times, the good times you've had in your life, and let's try to recreate those moments, not the moments where there's turbulence and where we're arguing with each other or where we're fighting with each other. I'm not saying that we need to ignore the bad stuff that's happening. We most definitely need to address the bad stuff that's happening in this world. We obviously can't live in just a shell, in our turtle shell, just pretending like the outside world isn't happening. But how we address that is with our actions. More killing, more hate crimes. Two wrongs don't make a right, and that goes with everything. And that's a basic statement that you'll hear as a young child, and that's something that's just true at its root. It's just two wrongs don't make a right, and you can't gain peace by means of war, and that's just what it is. You just can't do it. So let's remind ourselves that we truly want to go about every day carrying out actions of peace and kindness and love towards each other. And let's do that. And let's take notice of the people who are harming other people. Take care of those threats. And go on living our lives as, kind, loving folk as we are in our hearts. So let's just do that. So that being said, it's a beautiful day out today. It's a little after 10 o'clock. Last weekend was UFC 205. This weekend is UFC Fight Night in Belfast, Ireland. Today's Wednesday. It's on Saturday. The fights should be some good ones. We'll talk about those a little bit later. Before that, I just want to recite something that I wrote a little while back, that I've written a little while back. It just started out as just a thought in my mind, and it's an outline to replace taxation in our country, both income tax and local taxes, and to replace that with a voluntary funding program. So I just wanted to go over this outline with you guys and recite it for you guys. It's a 3-generation plan. Starts off with the current generation, the next generation, and then the generation after that. So not a finished product, just something I wrote a while back, and looking back on it, I went over it last night, and I thought it was interesting, and so I want to go ahead and go over that with you guys and just recite it. So this is the 3-generation plan to replace taxation with voluntary funding. The current generation. The people have to come to the conclusion that forced taxation of any kind is inherently against human nature, and people would much rather contribute directly and voluntarily to their communities, state, and nation. Upon the child's 18th birthday, they will be presented with a form in which they can voluntarily agree to contribute a portion of their labor earnings or profitable income to local service programs, charities, and community action organizations. There will be a decline option available for all persons completing the form for all generations to come as to live up to the standards of being voluntary. The major hurdle in the current generation is that all of these people were born into a time frame where they were raised with taxation as a normalcy standard. So the people will be reluctant to change. We will need to spread the word nationwide that we the people are intelligent enough and responsible enough to replace the master-slave taxation system in which we need a guardian or government to filter and disperse collected funds as decided by a few. Once voted into place, the first generation will proceed to collectively and predictably volunteer too little of their funds to complete basic tasks such as adequately pave roadways, adequately provide local community services such as food pantries and homeless shelters, keep public buildings maintained and parks landscaped. We will encourage people through marketing to volunteer critical services such as 911, EMT, fire, and police services so we can maintain the ideal of security the average person uses as a way to feel safe. And in reality, during these turbulent times, we will definitely need those services. We will need to forewarn people of the possibility of a potential learning period in which the first generation will volunteer too little to maintain all services adequately, so that the generous people will volunteer enough to keep just enough funding revenue coming in to get us to Generation 2. There is a possibility that those good-hearted, generous folks, especially if encouraged, can inspire those less likely inclined around them to help fund programs. In this case, the plan may be completed within 2 generations, as the learning period from the first to the second generation will be avoided. We will need to instill coursework in the education system as to teach the children why volunteering to fund various programs is beneficial. But that although it is encouraged that it is their own choice, it is important for the children growing up to know that it is their own choice and that it is the right thing to do, and that taxation is forced, indirect, ineffective, and that people should be given the opportunity to do the right thing, not forced to hopefully help to do something positive in an indirect manner. The second generation. These young adults will have been raised with the ideal of voluntary funding as a social normalcy. Unless the first generation avoided the learning period, they will look at the world around them and will see the failings of the generation before them to adequately fund much needed programs around their communities to meet the standards of how they were taught the world should be by the last pre-planned generation and the first generation's ideals and other norms. They will see how the previous generation's ideals were much more elevated than the reality of the amount of funding they were willing to volunteer for these causes. This will lead the second generation to voluntarily fund a much higher percentage of their earnings and or profitable income in order to restore the services needed to take care of their community around them. With encouragement, the people will overreact, thus leading to a potential for an even higher percentage of voluntary funding. Funding management. With taxation funds, when taxation funds are collected and placed into a massive account and spent accordingly to a budget that is written by people very disconnected from the local economy, with the new voluntary funding program, funders will send their funds directly to the entity in which they have chosen to help support. Each entity will create a funding management office where matters of organization of funds will be handled. Once a year, each service entity will hold a town hall meeting where the funders are welcomed to attend and vote on how funds will be allocated and spent. By the third generation, the public will have a firm grasp and the knowledge to correctly allocate and spend funds. And that's actually as far as my outline got right there. And then in the third generation, ideally, everything will be balanced out, and the first generation will have underfunded. The second generation will have overfunded to balance that out. And the third generation will understand and grasp exactly what they need to fund in order to make everything work as it's supposed to in our society. And I also think that people will be more willing and wanting to work and contribute in various ways in society if they know that they get to control how they contribute. I believe it will decrease the amount of homeless people we have on the streets. I've been on the streets, and I understand that a lot of people are there by choice, and if they felt maybe if they had a little bit more control on how they contributed in the world and things like that, they might want to contribute a little bit more in ways that most of you people who've been on track your whole life would feel is reasonable. So anyways, need to actually finish that and just polish out, and write the third generation there. I guess the funding management section kind of covered how the third generation will react there. Maybe just rename that the third generation. This was just a rough draft. I was also, if you heard me stuttering here and there, I was noticing typos in my writing that needed to be fixed. Probably things that should have been polished out, but this is a podcast, not a polished program anyways. So this is about raw thinking, and that's what this is. This was an idea I had, a 3-generation plan to replace taxation with voluntary funding. It's a perception shift. is mainly what it is, and it gives people the ability to decide directly how to contribute. The only point of attack for greedy people would be in the funding management offices, so that's where we would need to create some sort of system to protect the integrity of those offices, because that's the only point of filtration for the funds, and so that's the point where the greedy people in the world take advantage. So that's why they like taxation, so it could be all the money can be filtered through the greedy hands first. So this would minimize that, and we would just need to create some sort of system. And that's why all of us are important. So if you guys have any ideas to contribute to make maybe this 3-generation plan to replace taxation with voluntary funding more polished or more complete, please feel free to contribute any ideas in the comments or message me or anything like that. The more open thought towards resolving issues, the better. The more angles we have to resolve each issue, the better, So anyways, so that's that. And I guess that didn't last very long because we're going to talk about some UFC now. It's funny, UFC 205 in New York, Conor McGregor, the guy leading the Irish fighting charge, fought in New York, but the week after they're actually going to Ireland. So, and some pretty good fights, if I could say so myself. The main event is a rematch, and it's a rematch where I believe they're giving the guy who lost the first fight an opportunity to try to redeem himself. Before they give him a title fight, he needs to right the ship and beat the guy that devastatingly knocked him out. I'm talking about Gegard Mousasi versus Uriah Hall in their first fight. Uriah Hall, an underdog, took the fight on late notice. If you guys don't know, I believe Shotokan Karate, badass. Kind of fights like a video game character, very creative, a very explosive fighter, but has been known to flail at times due to his mental attitude leading into the fight. He has to be fired up and provoked in order to do damage. He's not, you see, in his heart, I don't think Uriah Hall wants to hurt other people. Like it's some contradictory thing that exists within him, So he has to be real fired up, and people were really giving him no chance in their first fight because Gegard Mousasi, if you guys don't know, former Strikeforce champion, 40-6 at this point in his career, has been very dominant in every organization he's ever fought in leading up to his career in the UFC. And he's had a very productive UFC career as well. It's just he hasn't quite reached the top of the mountain in the UFC yet. And previously to his fight with Uriah Hall, it seemed like he was going to get that title shot if he just beat Uriah Hall, and Uriah Hall knocked him out with a very flashy sequence of moves, and that was that. And so the funny thing is that with the rankings and the way they operate, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to some people because Uriah Hall never moved up in the Gegard Mousasi, even though Uriah Hall beat him, Gegard still stayed far ahead of Uriah Hall in the rankings. And even right now, Gegard Mousasi's 5th in the division, and Uriah Hall's 10th in the division. This is the middleweight division. So kind of interesting there. So Uriah Hall still the underdog. I believe that before the UFC feels like they could give Gegard Mousasi the title shot, and this is, I believe, what they think. It's not what I think. I think Gegard Mousasi deserves a fucking title shot, but because even after since the Uriah Hall fight, he's looked lights out. So, and he's if you saw the Gegard versus Vitor fight, Gegard Mousasi definitely deserves a title shot, but UFC's not going to give him one until he gets this one over Uriah Hall back. So Gegard's going to be ultra. He is he's a very mental fighter. Very intelligent, breaks every situation down in his head. It seems like he's, and most of the time he's the same way verbally as he is physically in the cage. Like, he's very methodical. He thinks about everything before he does it, and which makes him very hard to finish, and a hard puzzle for anybody to try to figure out. So he has very good defense in all areas. He's well rounded. His jiu-jitsu game's on point. Good wrestling, both offensively, defensively. His striking is extremely crisp and technical. He's a standout in all areas. And Uriah Hall, if he can repeat the magic he did the first time, this time it really should give him a bump to where he can get another crack at somebody, maybe in the top 5 or something like that. So, and then just hopefully he can. If Uriah Hall beats Gegard Mousasi, it's just hopefully it's not all for naught. Like, hopefully he takes that and gains momentum from it, and goes on a run and maybe gets a title shot or something like that. Because if he beats Gegard and then it's just another flash in the pan and there's no further momentum or upward swing gained from it, then it just kind of makes you feel like, man, I wish Gegard could have just got past him so he could get his title shot and we could see if he could get to the top of the heap, because Gegard is very consistent, where Uriah still needs to prove that he can be consistent. Uriah Hall's record is very modest. It should, it's 13-7. I feel like he could be, one of those guys that are like 18-1 or, 18-2 or 19-1, something like that. So, yeah, we're gonna see. It's gonna be a good one. Uriah Hall's finished 77% of his fights by knockout or TKO. So for the fights that he does, where he does win, he does it. It's all or nothing with him. So Gegard, on the other hand, his finishes are a little bit more balanced. He has a 2-to-1 knockout to submission ratio. 58% of his fights end by knockout or TKO. Of his wins end by knockout or TKO. 25% by submission, and then he has just a slightly higher decision rate. Neither of these guys go to decision very often. Gegard, interesting, has actually a reach advantage. He likes to fight at range. He does well in range, but so does Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall likes to explode from range, a lot like Michael Venom Page in Bellator does. And Gegard likes to come in with his jab or with a lead strike and then set up combos, very crisp combos. Both of these guys aren't just firing off combos that they remembered or just memorized. These guys react in every moment fluidly. They're like water, so it's going to be very interesting. I'm sure it's going to be a finish again. Who knows who's going to get the finish? Uriah Hall hopefully still feels disrespected, still feels like he needs to come into this one fired up. He beat him last time, beat the brakes off him, and then still didn't eclipse Gegard in the rankings. So Uriah, come out of the fucking gate on fire, and let's see what you got, man. And then if you can beat him, let's see what you can do with that momentum. So in the co-main event, we have a very interesting fight. We have a rugged veteran in Ross Pearson versus a guy who's very well known in the European circuit, but is just making his impression in the UFC. He's had a couple of fights in the UFC, has done rather well, and he's getting his first real test today. So Stevie Ray from Scotland, Braveheart Ray versus Ross the Real Deal Pearson. And Ross Pearson's nobody likes to admit they're a gatekeeper, and it's not my position or right to call anybody a gatekeeper, being that I've never been in a professional fight before. But basically what Ross Pearson is, if you can, and it's no disrespect, like, if you could be a gatekeeper, that means like you're right on the threshold, like, of right there, like, even to be in the UFC at all, you're in a very, very, very small percentage of people on earth that can do something like that. And to be in Ross Pearson's position where you get to basically dictate, all right, if this guy can beat me, he's also the real deal. And, all right, you may enter and get your shot and take a crack at some of the higher echelons of competition in the UFC. So that's what Stevie Ray is going to try to do in this fight against Ross Pearson. So Ross Pearson's record, he's a journeyman, 21-11. Stevie Ray, 19-7. See, Stevie Ray still has that single-digit loss column. still can salvage. He can still make that record look really good if he goes on a big run in the UFC, like maybe like 24-7, 25-7, 25-8. That'd be looking pretty good there. And to further substantiate Ross Pearson's gatekeeper / journeyman status, 43% decisions. Almost half of his fights end in decision. He has a 2-to-1 knockout TKO to submission ratio. 38% of his fights that he wins ends in knockout or TKO. 19% ends in submission. Stevie Ray, only basically a quarter of his fights end in decision, so he has a higher finishing rate. Fresh legs coming in, full head of steam. This is going to be a good one. But I feel in my heart that Stevie Ray, or Braveheart, I feel in my heart that Braveheart is going to pass that test, and I believe he'll probably beat Ross Pearson. Ross Pearson sets a ferocious pace in the fights. So if Stevie Ray can keep up with that, then yeah, we should have probably a good stand-up bout here. I don't know if this one's going to hit the ground. Also on the main card, 4 fights on the main card. Second fight on the main card we'll be seeing is a heavyweight affair here. 15th ranked heavyweight, which the heavyweight waters aren't very deep, so 15th is probably like it being like the 20, maybe the 30th or 40th best lightweight in the world. If you ask me, with how deep the lightweight or even like the featherweight, bantamweight divisions, a lot of those other divisions, the flyweight division is not very deep, but the heavyweight waters aren't very deep, and the UFC is seeking heavyweights. They want marquee heavyweights. They want their heavyweight division to be badass, and they're looking, and this is a fight where they're going to be maybe finding someone they can market in the heavyweight division to push up in the rankings. So we have number 15th in the world, Timothy Johnson. If you guys never seen him before, pretty good all-around fighter. Has heavy hands. 60% of his fights that he wins ends in KO or TKO. And the way he looks, I don't know if there's any gaming fans out there, any old school gaming fans, but if you guys ever played any old school games like Final Fight or Saturday Night Slam Masters on Super Nintendo, there's an old school character, Mike Kagger, with the mustache, and Timothy Johnson, just with his stash and his look and his workman-like look, and just like I don't know, he just looks like a badass middle-aged fucking dude, and they remind me of each other. Anyways, not that that means anything, but he's fighting Alexander Volkov, Drago, so ripping his name off, his nickname straight from Rocky IV, Dolph Lundgren style. If he could fight like Drago on Rocky, fucking probably knock Timothy Johnson the fuck out, but I don't think it's going to go down that way. Volkov's more, the Russian guys, heavyweights, a lot of them, they hang out in like the 230 to 240 pound range. Timothy Johnson cuts down to 265. Volkov does have the reach advantage, and he does have a higher knockout percentage, but Tim Johnson's wrestling game, and he has the ability to submit you too. I mean, he does have 30% of his fights that he wins ends in submission, and that's twice as much as Volkov, who has a 12% submission rating, so percentage. So, anyways, Tim Johnson, I think, has more ways to win that fight, and I'm not making my picks yet, but I'm gonna be going for old Tim on this one. And then the first fight on the main card, we have Conor McGregor's sidekick, the guy with the most mediocre record in all of the UFC, who's still here because his name is associated forever with Conor McGregor. He was a fighter on the season where Conor and Uriah Faber were the coaches against each other. He was on Conor's team, the European team. Artem, the Russian Hammer Lobov, was born in Russia, raised and learned how to fight in Ireland, he says. Very modest record. He'll tell you it's because he fights anybody. I'll tell you it's because he's average. Anyways, yeah, 13-12. has looked okay so far. The last guy he fought was Nick Diaz's little friend, Chris. I can't remember his last name. But he fought that guy who never had any UFC experience, who was very, very green. Artem couldn't finish him. This weekend he's fighting Teruto Ishihara. Yashobo is his nickname. He's the ladies' man who likes to finish fights. So 80% of the fights he wins, he KOs or TKOs the other guy. This is going to be a standing war. Artem, don't get me wrong, like, I'm a little biased. Like, I just don't like him, like, very much. Like, I don't like to go for him very much. He's like, not that I don't like him very much, like, we pick sides, right? Like, to me, he's a heel, you know? And it's like, I like to go against him. Like, not that I don't like him, I just like to go against him, you know? It's part of the way I entertain myself watching fights, is either picking a guy to emotionally or, you know, emotionally invest in, or root for, or a guy to go against. So that's just being honest. So I'm going for Teruto in this one. He's a cool character, man. He comes on stage, he says what's up to the ring girls, to the ladies. He says he wants, you know, he's just a simple dude, and he's not an asshole. He's a real nice guy. He just wants to fight and meet chicks. So Teruto Ishihara is a cool fucking Japanese character, and I hope he beats the brakes off of Artem Lobov this weekend. If you look at their significant strikes, Artem is a headhunter. He likes looking for that big one. Teruto can put the hands on you a little bit more in bunches. He likes to strike in volume. Ishihara lands 5.5 strikes per minute. Artem lands just a little under 2 strikes a minute. Artem's accuracy is even though he's headhunting and he's picking his shots, he's still only landing. His accuracy is only 33%. So, as opposed to some of the greatest fighters we've ever seen in the UFC, like Anderson Silva, who had, I believe, over a 70% accuracy rating. His accuracy rating of 33% goes hand in hand with his record of 13-12 overall. Most likely, most of his career, the big, wide swinging haymakers most of the time miss, but when they do land, they land big, and that's what Ishihara's got to watch out for, because if Ishihara isn't careful and doesn't utilize his head movement and foot movement effectively, Artem could put one of those on his chin and could put his lights out very easily. Artem is very dangerous. He's a dangerous guy. He's still not a guy you want to fuck with out there on the streets. But Ishihara strikes in volume, and his accuracy speaks of someone who strikes with fluidity, who doesn't have to put everything on every strike, but wants to get the strike to the target. He has a 52% accuracy rate. That's pretty good. A little over 1 out of every 2 strikes that you throw lands on your opponent in a damaging way, even if it's just slightly damaging. They both absorb over 3 strikes a minute. So, but the difference there is that Artem absorbs, he absorbs over 1 more strike per minute than he lands, and Ishihara lands almost 2 more strikes than he absorbs per minute. So that right there is a telling sign to me. It's something that I would probably go off of a little bit if I was looking at my draft or at my daily fantasy lineup. Ooh, almost said the name there. So just talking about that a little bit. That means that Ishihara hits more than he gets hit, and Artem gets hit more than he hits. So Ishihara will be able to find the volume on Artem, I do believe, there. I think that this next fight, and they're putting fights on the prelims now to headline the prelims as if they're their own entertainment entity, in order to draw fans, especially into the main card. So I understand them putting this fight as the main fight on the prelims. It's almost more of a marquee spot than being the first fight on the main card. Ian McCall versus Neil Two-Tap Siri. Ian, or as people like to call him, Uncle Creepy, is a fighter that has had a long history in combat sports. He used to fight at a little bit higher weight when the flyweight division wasn't so relevant, or it wasn't available in so many organizations out there. The flyweight division is one of the newest divisions to come along in the men's brackets. The bantamweight and featherweight division, although, so here's how it goes. Like the welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight divisions, they've always been the divisions where there's been more competition. They've been more promoted, and the lighter divisions had to come along later and had to get a grasp, on the market a little bit later. It took the smaller fighters a little bit longer to the sport had to grow out to incorporate the smaller fighters. The sport had to sell those bigger divisions first, because people are just traditionally in boxing, like the bigger divisions drew more attention, like the heavyweight division or the middleweight division back in boxing back in the days. So MMA had to, especially the UFC, had to build out those divisions first, those core divisions first, before they could start adding bigger these smaller divisions. The WEC came along, they started promoting the bantamweights and the featherweights, but I don't believe they even had flyweights. And so Ian McCall used to fight at bantamweight and at I think even featherweight a couple times. And although you could always see his technical skill, he just was too small for those divisions. So when the flyweights became available, I believe that he became the champion in a couple of different promotions that he fought in. The Tachi Palace promotion in Lemoore, California, where I graduated high school and where the WEC was first created. He was a champ there, and he got his call up to the UFC rather quickly when they, when they instilled the flyweight division, because he deserved to be there, and he still deserves to be here, and he's had a lot of health setbacks in his life, and it's good to see him still trying to get out here and do it. So I hope he has a good showing. He's fighting against another Irish journeyman. This one, although his record is very pedestrian, very mediocre himself, kind of like Artem Lobov's, he's a face to me. I like to go for this guy. So I like both of these guys, so I'm going to try to watch this one unbiasedly, objectively here. Neil Seery likes to keep it standing, likes to swing for the fences. Pretty technically crisp, though. Likes to enter with his jab, likes to set up combinations, likes to use his footwork, head movement, likes to stay in the pocket. So Ian McCall could put him on his back and tap him out, I feel like. But if Ian keeps it standing and wants to give the fans all they paid for, this one could be a stand-up brawl and a fight of the night. Really could be a fight of the night. If Neil's been working on his takedown defense and he can keep this fight standing and not get subbed out by Ian on the ground, because although the stats would lean towards Neil being the better submission artist, just Neil's 16-12 record versus Ian's 13-5 record against top-notch competition in the United States, in organizations that help build out these lighter divisions. And not that there's anything wrong with the competition Neil was fighting against in Ireland, and in the other countries surrounding there in Europe. But I just feel like the average level of competition in the United States was probably a little bit higher during the formulative years for these divisions. And Neil had a pretty, even record, 16-12. Definitely had ups and downs, fought hard in his life, but I think that Ian is more polished all around, and could win the fight in areas where maybe Neil couldn't finish Ian. So gonna be a good one. And so this card is filled with European talent that a lot of this talent was maturing over at Cage Warriors, the Cage Warriors promotion, where Conor McGregor held his 2 titles there, and now he's the two division champion in the UFC. He basically pulled the same gimmick he did in the regionals now at the UFC. He just recreated that formula, and he did it at the top level, which is awesome. But that promotion, they are now, especially now, like, they're deep with talent, and they've been developing talent over there for a long time, at a lot of different weight classes. And this next fight is actually between two guys who are pretty fucking popular over there. Magnus Siedenblad versus Jack Marshman. Both of these guys, pretty good records. Magnus is 14-4, hails from Sweden. Marshman hails from a place where part of my genealogy comes from, Wales. Marshman 20-5, Siedenblad 14-4. Both of them have at least a 50% knockout or TKO percentage, so both of them have proven themselves to be finishers. They also both have at least 25% of their wins by submission, so both of them have under 25% decision percentage, so neither of them, on average, they only go to decision 1 out of every 5 or 6 fights combined, so most likely going to be a finish in this one. I'll probably lean one way or the other, and probably towards Siedenblad, just off of what I've seen from both guys. But we'll see. You never know. But I believe this is Marshman's first fight in the UFC, and Siedenblad's had a couple of experiences in the cage, so probably lean towards Siedenblad on this one, but pay attention a little bit more the next couple of days, and we'll see. Next fight here, a man that fought for the title against Demetrious Johnson, got tapped out, I believe, at the latest point in a round that's ever happened before, like literally at the end of the round. I believe it was in the 5th round. Kyoji Horiguchi got armbarred by Demetrious Johnson, something brutal at the end of their fight, versus a guy who was all roided out, and Demetrious Johnson. Both of these guys have fought Demetrious Johnson, invited for the title, and they both came up short. Ali Bagutinov versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Bagutinov was caught for using a banned substance after his fight with Demetrious Johnson, proved that he was on performance-enhancing compounds while he was in there. Still got his ass whipped. Demetrious Johnson doesn't need steroids to whip your ass. Probably just needs a protein shake and a couple of sessions with Matt Hume to sharpen up his skills. But so this is a good one. This is another one, could probably replace Lobov and Ishihara on the main card. Probably just stick it up there, except for Lobov is Irish. It is in Ireland. Bagutinov from Russia, so a little bit of a geographic distance there as far as demographics are concerned. But this is a good fight right here. Kyoji Horiguchi still ranked number 4 in the world. Bagutinov top 10 as well, number 8 in the world. Horiguchi, karate style, likes to blitz, make his entrance very quickly and exit very quickly. Bagutinov, sambo guy, very well-rounded. I believe he's a master of sport in Russia. And it should be a good one. Bagutinov's going to want to catch Horiguchi as he makes his entrance. If Bagutinov catches Horiguchi clean on an entrance, Bagutinov wins that fight. If Horiguchi continually enters and exits on his own free will on every exchange, most likely Horiguchi's going to take this one. We'll either wear him down and TKO him maybe, or most likely by decision. So Horiguchi's very fast. His footwork's great. If you never knew who Demetrious Johnson was, if Demetrious Johnson never existed, Horiguchi very well could be the champion this division right now. So I believe Horiguchi will probably take this one. Yeah, and I hope he does, man. Bagutinov doesn't get to use steroids anymore, and we're going to see just what he's got naturally. Not that I would want to fuck with him. He's a bad motherfucker, but, you know, I don't like the guys who are out there trying to cheat, man. I just don't like it. So that's my right to not like it. And that's that. So take it or leave it. Next fight, the Motown Phenom. The Motown Phenom Kevin Lee versus one of these. Not that they're all not. I'm not trying to make him sound generic, but he's just another one of the fine young products coming out of Eastern Europe, out of Russia. Magomed Mustafayev, I think is how you say his name. Mustafayev. I apologize, Magomed. I fucked your last name all up there. But Kevin Lee is a guy that I feel could be very marketable. Just looks like a badass, has a pretty badass nickname, carries himself with a lot of confidence, and isn't shy, doesn't shy away from verbal conflict and stays active on social media, all the things that the UFC likes in a fighter. I feel like Kevin Lee can do all of those things. I honestly don't know very much about the other counterpart that he's fighting here, other than I've watched just a little bit of tape on him, and I know that he's pretty well rounded. But Kevin Lee, I feel like either of these guys, like anybody can rise to the top and can do the things they need to do to make themselves marketable and to be a successful fighter. But I feel like Kevin Lee is just already a little bit closer there. Still has a very good record. Can still keep that intact. He's 13-2, could go 14-2. Magomed is 13-1, 14-1. That's both of their records are beautiful. Kevin Lee's only downfall is that he needs to start finishing more fights. A lot of his fights end by decision. Over half of his fights that he wins ends by decision, 54%. Only 8% of his fights by KO. Does submit a lot of people. Submissions are entertaining. Fights are entertaining in general, but just the average newbie into mixed martial arts, they need to be drawn in with with a little bit of flash. And so in order to expand your marketability, you need to be able to bring in new demographics of fans, and that's what Conor McGregor was able to do, and that's why he's so successful, is that he didn't just gain the attention of the existing UFC fans. He brought a whole new wave of UFC fans with him, and that's what Kevin Lee needs to be able to do as well. So anyways, he needs a big finish in this one, and then maybe push him up to where he gets a top 15 fight in the lightweight division. But it's a stacked division, a bunch of killers, and it's a hard road to the top in that division. So should be a good fight, though, of course. All these fights. This next fight, I've never seen either of these lovely ladies fight before. Anna Elmos from Denmark versus an American girl, Amanda Cooper. ABC's her nickname. That's pretty neat. So not much to say about that. Just off of the top of my head, I can see here that looks like Cooper, she may have fought once in the UFC. She didn't have a very good outing. Whatever happened, she landed 0.27 strikes per minute, 25% accuracy. She absorbed 4 strikes per minute, so she absorbed 16 times the amount of, or more, 20 times the amount of damage that she took in there, and she only had a 50% defense, so I imagine she probably got finished. Just looking at the main page here of the UFC card here. Let me see if I can find her fights here. Oh, yeah, she got submitted in the first round against Tatiana Suarez in the Ultimate Fighter finale. Oh, Joanna versus Claudia. Okay. I just didn't see that. So, she got hit 16 times. She hit the other girl 1 time. So, and then she got submitted. So, they both had 1 submission attempt. At least 1 submission attempt. Tatiana had 2 submission attempts, and she ended up submitting her. So, does not say the exact submission type right there, which would be helpful on the UFC site there, guys, just to let you know. You might want to put the exact finishing method there for people to see. Anyways, I should know more about what I'm talking about before I talk to you guys about shit, though. But I can't know every fucking fighter. I know quite a bit, but just, there's so many new fighters. Over 500 fighters on the roster. You have an ability in your memory banks to only, there's like a psychological principle or whatever scientific principle that they know of, where you can only remember like so many hundreds of people in your whole life. So for me to be able to remember as many UFC fighters as I can, I feel good about myself. But I apologize to both Amanda Cooper and Anna Elmos. I hope you guys both have a good fight and are successful, and no offense to either of you. All right, so I have heard of this guy before. Mark the Hand of God Beer. versus a guy I don't know very well here. I don't know who he is. Justin Lede. Justin Lede 7-0. Mark Godbeer, who is a Cage Warriors champion over there, I do believe. This is a heavyweight fight. Godbeer is probably being set up to win this one, I do believe. 82% KO or TKO percentage, 18% submission rate, percentage, 0% decisions. So he likes to go out there and give it his all and win or lose. And but Lede, I don't know who he is, but I just looked at this right here though. 7.53 strikes landed per minute. It's showing up here, which means that he does have UFC experience. That was in the UFC. He absorbed almost 4 per minute, which means he was probably in a slugfest, but he got the upper hand of it. That's for sure. His accuracy was 49%, so he almost landed half of everything he threw, and he's undefeated still, so he must have won. Let me go ahead and click on Justin Lede here. El Blanco. Looks like he's been in some fights, I'll tell you that. Got the cauliflower ear. Got the fucking scar tissue. Let me see. Yeah. All right, so he fought at UFC Fight Night. Rodriguez versus Alex Caceres. Yair Rodriguez versus Alex Caceres. He won. He won by decision, but won convincingly. Landed far more strikes than he absorbed. That's for sure. He fought a guy named Chase Sherman. Never heard of him either. So many up and coming fighters these days. I've heard of you now, Justin Lede. I'll be looking out for you. So that should be a good one. Godbeer is very well known over there. He's going to have a lot of fans cheering for him. Knockout power, knockout potential. Justin Lede obviously puts volume in his striking, and should be a good one there. All right, so the next fight, someone I do know of, Zach Cummings, very hard-nosed fighter, very awkward, unorthodox if I've ever seen it. Believe he trains with Mike Platinum Perry, and those guys are just a different breed of dude down there. They're just cold-hearted, funky-ass dudes, man, and they like to fucking put their hands on people. So he's fighting a guy I never heard of, Alexander Yakovlev, Thunder of the North from Russia. Zach Cummings is very workmanlike. Probably not going to have the career projection, upward projection of Mike Perry as his friend, but still, if you can get past him, you're probably going to go places. He's a very tough guy. He's not an easy test by any means. So I imagine if Yakovlev can get past Cummings here, he may get top 20, top 15 fight in the welterweight division. Both of them rather equal in their significant strikes landed per minute. Cummings almost 2.5 per minute. Yakovlev almost two a minute. Yakovlev has much better accuracy, almost 50%. Cummings lands not even 1/3 of every strike that he throws. So Cummings definitely, although he's tough and he's dangerous, he can be defeated. So we'll see what happens in that one. Marion Renault, who I believe Belizean, I said that all wrong. Belizean Bruiser. I feel fucking stupid right now. She's from Belize, so Belizean Bruiser. Okay, there we go. 15th in the world in her division. Believe she's from the Central Valley in California. Let me take a looky here. Yeah, Tulare, California. So Tulare County, just next to Kings County, where I'm from. She fights out of Visalia. I've partied there a few times with an old friend of mine, especially Steve Villarreal. Also had a date or two out there. Tara, you probably remember going to the cellar door and listening to some funky jazz music and having some drinks of some good wine out there. But so she's from the Central Valley. She had a very close fight with Holly Holm year and a half ago. She could have been the one getting that title shot with Ronda Rousey if she would have beat Holly. I believe she lost by unanimous decision against Holly. Yep, and that was July 15, 2015. So, a little over a year ago, right on point there. And then Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. She lost against my girl, Ashley Evans Smith. I fucking love watching Ashley Evans Smith fight. She's the fucking beast, wrestling beast. Hard nose. She has that punk rock style haircut where she has it all shaved on one side. Uh, anyways, Marion Renault's also a badass, though. So, has a kick-ass stand-up game, that's for sure. So, let's go back to the card page here. She's fighting a girl I've never heard of before. Ha ha ha. Milana Dudieva from Russia, 11-4. Marion, although she's fought against top-notch competition, is just going to be. This is just going to be her 10th overall professional mixed martial arts fight. So she's 6-3. Milana has been doing work over in Europe, obviously, but maybe the level of competition hasn't been what Marion's fought here in the United States. She fought and went to a decision with an ex-UFC champion who took down Ronda Rousey, the mythical Ronda Rousey, unicorn, beast, creature. Especially Ronda Rousey on weigh-in day. That's the rarest creature in the world right there. But anyway, so Marion Renault definitely has earned her stripes in UFC, and I'll be going for her for sure. Nothing against you, Mrs. Dudieva, but Marion Renault fighting out of Visalia, which means she probably knows and maybe fights and trains with Doug Marshall. Some of you old school fans know who he is. Then we're going deep into the prelims. There's just a couple of other prelim fights. I have no idea who these guys are. Brett Johns versus Kwon Ho Kwak, the handsome from South Korea. One of them K-pop phenoms from South Korea, 9-0, versus Brent Johns from Wales, 12-0. I don't know who. They both have great records, both undefeated. Someone's O has got to go. So that should be interesting. Just looking at this here, Mr. Kwak from South Korea has a 67% knockout TKO percentage, when Mr. Johns just has a 17%. Brett Johns has 33% submission, so one out of every 3 of his wins ends by way of submission. Kwon Ho Kwak, no submissions. They both have some decisions. Brett Johns, half of his fight ended decision. One out of every 3 fights of Kwon Ho Kwak's fights ends in decision. This is a bantamweight fight, and this is just an entry level fight into the UFC. One of these guys wins dominantly and gains some attention. Upward spiral, upward projection in their UFC career path. So hope both of you guys do well. The last fight, I feel like actually this guy I have heard of, Charlie Ward, used to play point guard for the Knicks, right? Florida State, Heisman champion. Just kidding. That's probably not him. I have no idea. He's only 2-1. 2-1. He might be getting fed up to this guy, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Yeah, so from Ghana. So he's 6-0. Neither of these guys are very experienced, but I have to guess that the UFC likes a 6-0 record. This is a welterweight fight. Abdul Razak Hassan does have UFC experience. He's landed almost 7 strikes a minute, only absorbed 3.5. So he obviously did work, and they might be wanting him to win this one. They might be feeding Charlie Ward up as a sheep to the T-Rex in Jurassic Park on this one. I don't know anything about him, but you never know. But 2-1 record, no picture on the website, none of his stats. I hope Charlie Ward upsets the odds there. I always like to go for the underdog. Let me see here. You guys like my sound effects? You guys love this shit? Just joking. So now that we talked about the UFC, we'll talk about it maybe later on in the week a little bit more after the weigh-ins, or next week especially. Give you guys the results. Talk a little bit about it then. But I just wanted to take this time. It is November. Like I said earlier, we should be caring about our family members all times of the year. But one second. We should be caring about our family members all times of the year, and we shouldn't need a holiday to remind ourselves of that. And I have deep guilt feelings because there's just so many people who've had such a special place in my heart and who have loved me and I love them. And I love you guys, man. I love you guys, but like I've always had a hard it's been a long road for me in life to be productive to the point where I can contribute to society. And sometimes I feel like, because I'm a very emotional person, I'm a very sensitive person, and so sometimes I feel like when I let that love overtake me, it like distracts me like from being able to function in my day-to-day life. So but I think that was mostly working for other companies, and working full-time, working shitloads of hours, and then trying to also find time in my energy through all the exhaustion to be around family. And in my 30s, I moved up to Oregon from California in order to find myself, to do some soul searching and to overcome the things that are holding me back. And I'm still doing that because I'm still obviously on a daily basis just trying to make it through the day, showing love and not having any negative altercations with people. So I'm still working on myself, but I've come a long way since I've come up here. I truly have. And I haven't told a lot of people or reminded them that I love them for a long time, but from my closest of family members to many of friends and acquaintances I've met over the years, I love and miss you guys. And I just wanted to take a minute to give a shout out to everybody that I could think of that I miss and that I love. So, one second here. I just want to give a shout out to Mom, Dad, Candy, Kyle, Kaylee, Krista, Cody, Casey, Carly, Kelsey, Curtis, Grandma Billy, Dawn, Deborah, Brooklyn, Matthew, Tyler, Avery, Ariel, Scotland, Corbin, Uncle Larry, Daryl, Jennifer, the Hall family, Ivan, Amanda, Rylan, Roman, Reggie, Kim, Roger, Grandma Peggy, Lacey, even though I don't know you really, Evan, Uncle Greg, Ian, Jeremy, Melissa, all of your guys' kids, Michael Copeland, Diana, Courtney, Ryan, Katie, and your current boyfriend, Mikkel, Carl, Alicia, Rosa, Jean, Ryan, Cheyenne, Nikki, to all the friends I miss and I love still, Brandon Benson, John Allison, Daniel Fagan, rest in peace, David Ziegler, I missed the shit out of you, bud. Wes Roberts, I haven't talked to you in forever. You probably think I'm a piece of shit. Never thought that about you. I still love and I miss you. I don't know if you really think that about me, but I just really miss you, man. I hope you're doing great in life. Brad Picorni, David Kane, Nick Bondi, Richard Lee, Chris Ornelis, Josh Villampondo, Katie, Rachel, and even you, Susie, Moni, Bo, Steve Villarreal. I really fucking miss you, man. Steve the Black. That's your pirate name, boy, and I still miss you. Carissa, Lisa, you know who you are. And to all the family members we've seen pass, Uncle Danny, Dad, my other dad, not my other dad, they're both my dads, but Grandma Phyllis, Uncle Don, Aunt Kay, and to all my family in Mariposa who are still alive but don't talk to me, fuck you, but I still love you. And with that shout out to all my family and to all my friends and to everybody I miss, any of you motherfuckers want to invite me over for Thanksgiving dinner? I probably won't make it, but I appreciate the invitation. But nah, and I would try to make it, but I'm just joking. I love you guys. And yeah, just I feel that love in my heart right now. Can you guys feel it through the microphone? I mean, I miss, especially a lot of these people are in California, and I miss everybody, even the family that I'm with up here in Oregon. I don't, like we still have work to do, so I don't see. And a lot of that's probably my work I need to do in myself, but I miss you guys too. I don't get to see you guys all the time, and don't know, it's nobody else's business, but I miss you guys, man. So, but all my family, a lot of these people are in California, and I miss you guys tremendously. I hope you guys know that. I think about you guys every day. I see your pictures on Facebook every day. I miss the kids. The kids Some of the kids have been born since last time I've been down there. I haven't been down there to see you guys in 3 years. And the kids that I seen the last time, my nieces and nephews, you guys are even way bigger than you were then. So time flies, and I hope that my absence in your guys' life hasn't translated into you guys thinking I don't care. I love all of you guys, and I'm trying to build myself up beyond this week-to-week grind to the point where I can take care of myself and have something to contribute to this next generation coming up. And maybe before I die, if I could own a property, I could just give it to the kids in the next generation, either from Ivan and Amanda's family or to my family in California. If I had 2 properties, give one to each, or give it to all of them under some big, trust situation that I don't fully understand. But so to everybody I named there, I have fond memories and great times in my mind and in my heart in regards in connection with all you guys, and love you very much. And with that, shout out to my family. That's going to conclude this episode of the morning recording, and hope all of you continue to have a wonderful day. Another person I want to give a shout out to, Scott Sutherland. You are I'm going to call you professors, community college, and a lot of people don't call professors at community college, but you're a fucking professor in the English language and in teaching people what's right and what's wrong. And even though, we both agree that there's things wrong in the world, we just don't always see eye to eye on a lot of things. And I think that I bust your balls on Facebook a lot over shit, and I want to apologize for that. And most important thing is for you to know is that you taught me a great deal while I was in class with you. You taught me a great deal about expressing myself freely, and a lot about just the construct of the English language and how to further my writing skills, and how to translate my thought into the written form with your free writing exercises and things like that. And there's a very fond memory I have where it was in the English, I can't remember the names of the courses anymore. The highest one there at the community college, English 1A or 1B. 1A, I believe, is the first English class. 1B, I believe, is the highest one, where we had that book that was filled with, short stories and poems that were well known. And I can't remember what poem it was, but I recited one, and I did it in a hip hop style, and just I remember just having a great time doing that, and the response to it and the class's response to it is very special in my heart. So lots of great memories. I loved being in your classes, and I think you're a wonderful human being, and you're doing a great job in your life, and you always have, and that's the most important thing. So with that, once again, this has been the morning recording. I'm not gonna say it with the emphasis I do, like I did the first time, because I already fucking did that. You guys only get that once per day. So anyways, I'm gonna get out of here before I start rambling too much. You guys have a great day. Thank you very much. Bye.